So if you've been hearing rumors about this chapter, they're pretty much true. This chapter is monumental and insanely exciting. Like, it's equal to, if not greater than, the previous chapter. Like, we're getting the appearance of the final boss here, and possibly the death of one of the major characters, but let's get into it. Title of the chapter is Luffy's Dream. Luffy reveals his dream to the crew, and we get to see their reaction. So, starting off with a banger here. I don't know if we're literally hearing it. I really wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of just the perspective of Luffy saying it, but we don't exactly see it, because that's kind of just how it's been throughout the story up until this point. Like, we never fully get to see what Luffy and or Roger say their dream is. And that's another thing about Luffy's dream, is that it's apparently congruent with Roger's, because that's what Yamato reveals to the audience through her reading Oden's logbook, because Roger revealed it to him and Whitebeard. And I guess the popular opinion on what this could be is that they want to throw the world's biggest party, essentially. And that also kind of lines up with what the actual One Piece itself is, because the One Piece seems to be just the setting for the world's largest celebration to happen. Like, that's what Laugh Tale, the location itself, is, and the stuff there is for said party. And it kind of lines up with what's been going on with the series, to be honest. Like, the conclusion of every big arc essentially ends with a big party happening, right? Like, that's what Luffy is ultimately always looking forward to. And it seems to be like a big cathartic part of the series as well, and possibly even for Oda. And I also think a big indicator of it is Binks' Sake, the song. That's obviously a recurring thing in the series. We hear it all the time, and it's for a reason. It's because it's kind of telling us what's going on, more or less. Like, Binks' Sake is like the big part of the One Piece. Like, there's apparently going to be like the world's greatest sake there, which was possibly brewed by Joy Boy or something. But the whole thing about delivering Binks' sake is essentially bringing freedom to the world. And that's possibly why Roger named the location Laugh Tale, because like the final lyric in Binks' sake is never ending, ever wandering, our funny traveling tale. So yeah, at least I myself agree with this being the case. So when it's revealed that it's just a location and party favors with a whole bunch of special sake for everyone in the world to come together and enjoy, post them being freed from, 1,000 years of being enslaved by the world government, I can see it causing controversy, and not everyone is going to be on board with it. But first, real quick, let's talk about Gamer Supps, because it's currently September, and that means every week there's going to be a new Waifu Cup drop. And starting this week, it's the Teacher Cup. This thing is aesthetically appealing in more ways than one. And these things are great not only because they're aesthetically appealing, but also it makes drinking Gamer Supps so much easier. So for example, you can take the new Emotional Damage, which is like a strawberry peach flavor, add it to your Waifu Cup, shake it up, and now it's become that much more aesthetic. And there's also teacher shirts available too. This thing's pretty aesthetic as well. I really like this. I'm probably gonna be wearing it out any chance I get. So guys, check out the link in the description and make sure you use my code BIGZ at checkout. That way you'll get 10% off your purchase. Thanks. Sabo continues his call with Dragon. All right, so we're coming back to this. At the end of chapter 1058, we return to the Revolutionary Army, and we saw their reaction to the news of Sabo allegedly killing Cobra. And Dragon said Sabo is just fine, but if it's true that he killed King Cobra, there will be a reckoning between us, no matter his reason. And then suddenly their Den Mushi starts ringing, but we find out that the Marines are tracing their call, because they say, I'm picking up a call from Kamabaka Queendom. It might be Flame Emperor, recorded and traced the signal. And then that chapter ended with us hearing Sabo say, hey, it's me, Sabo. So we're coming back to that here. And he says that he mentions being in Lelouchia Kingdom and having seen a person sitting on the empty throne. So first of all, Lelouchia Kingdom is that place that we saw Ace go to on his cover story, where he was fed misinformation about Blackbeard being there, but it turned out it was like just Dr. Blackbeard or something. And then more recently and more prominently, we saw this place in chapter 904 being invaded by that guy Pinkbeard, and they ultimately wound up being saved by the Revolutionary Army commanders. So now I guess Sabo's just going back there to hide out, post Reverie. And him saying that he's seen a person sitting on the empty throne is like one of the biggest things that anyone could see or say in this series, because because at this point, he may be the only person that is truly aware of this besides the Gorosei themselves and maybe Doflamingo. But that's it. Like, this is the most taboo of all taboo things. Like, it's called the Empty Throne for a reason. Imu is seen with a map that has Aleutian Kingdom crossed out. In the skies of Aleutian Kingdom, dark clouds start to gather and lightning is striking left and right. An object is seen falling down from the sky onto the country. Aleutian Kingdom is destroyed. Oh my god. This is beyond crazy. So before we go further, another thing I want to touch on with these spoilers is that apparently we see Imu talking. Of course, the Gorosei are there as well. So we could put two and two together here, and we could just assume that Imu probably took it upon herself to have Aleutian Kingdom destroyed. And it goes back to what we were talking about with the Marines tracing and listening to the call between Sabo and the Revolutionary Army. And I guess she was listening to it as well, or maybe the Gorosei were, or someone just informed them of what was going on. And they heard the line of Sabo saying that he saw someone sitting on the empty throne. And like I said, that's like the biggest taboo right now. And since Imu is like the shadow ruler of the world government and essentially the world, she wants to keep it that way. So one way or another, an order was put in, or someone orchestrated, possibly her, to have the Aleutian Kingdom destroyed here. Now, how was it destroyed? Obviously, we don't know. This is all we get to go off of right now, but I'm assuming that she has either the power of Uranus, you know, the third ancient weapon, or some other thing that the world government has. Maybe that's what Doflamingo was alluding to, unless he was alluding to Imu herself, possibly, I don't know, the treasure. But she is in control of this thing, and she just Hakai's a whole island with it, just to make sure that Sabo would die and that he wouldn't be able to spread this information. Now, does that mean that Sabo is dead? I don't really know. I mean, it is possible that he could survive this. If he does die here, this would obviously give, you know, Luffy motivation to go after Imu, aside from her just, you know, condemning the world essentially, and him being, you know, the reincarnation of Joy Boy, which was like the big original rivalry, we assume, Imu and Joy Boy. But also, I keep saying that Imu is a she, and it's because I'm pretty sure that she is. Oda is without a doubt heavily inspired by Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, and in that story, Kaguya Hime, Princess of the Moon, comes down to Earth as like a glowing baby inside of like a bamboo stalk. And long story short, she's like the most beautiful woman in the world essentially, and eventually gets to the point of where like 5 world nobles come to find out about her and try to become her suitors. And you know, 5 world nobles, the Gorosei, 5 elder stars. It's not a coincidence that they are down bad for Imu, because it's directly paralleling to Tale of the Bamboo Cutter. And we know that the moon is a big element of One Piece, so I'm pretty sure Imu is an alien that came down to Earth. And 5 of the top leaders of the countries kind of just betrayed them just so they can join Imu and live in Mary Joie, along with, you know, the others besides Alabasta. And that's also why Samurai Gandhi looks like that, because I'm pretty sure he betrayed Wano. And that sword he has is probably Shodai Kitetsu as well. And then you can kind of figure out where these other Gorosei guys come from. Like maybe this one came from Order 7, I don't know. But yeah, that's Imu in a nutshell essentially. And also she probably had the perpetual U surgery performed on her, and that's why she has like the same eyes as Mihawk, Hakuba, and Zunisha. The Straw Hats meet Jewelry Bonnie with a bounty of 320 million at the end of the chapter. Okay, so this is pretty important too. Not just because of Jewelry Bonnie, but because of what she possibly is, and I think she's probably a celestial dragon. So when we first really see her, she's saving Zoro from Charlos, right? So that's kind of like the first indication of her possibly being tied to that. Although at first we don't really know that until after the fact. Because in chapter 595, Blackbeard steals her in hopes of getting like a marine warship in return. And that's interesting because like, why would he get a warship for Jewelry Bonnie? She's not even really that big of a deal. Until we see that it was Aki Inu who was sent to retrieve her. And when Aki Inu gets there, he says, when I heard that you had fled the government, a chill went down my spine. But that is all over now. So that right there, it's like Aki Inu doesn't really act that way with pirates or just with most people, but he's kind of implying that she's important, obviously, right? And then later on, when we see her at the Reverie in chapter 908, she like disguises herself as Queen Dowager of Sorbet Kingdom, Connie, and she's able to get into the land of the gods like like going past the gate when St. Roswald comes out riding Kuma. And afterwards, Bonnie says, I didn't think I'd run across him right in the open like that. Well, I made it inside. You'll pay, I swear it. So that could mean that Roswald is her dad and like Charlos is her brother. Going back to what I talked about when we originally meet her, she's saving Zoro from Charlos. But regardless, even if she isn't like directly related to them, I'm like 90% sure she's a celestial dragon nonetheless. But anyway, now that she's meeting up with the Straw Hats here, her allegedly being a celestial dragon is important because she could just spill the beans on all of that stuff to them, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it for the spoilers today, guys. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. This is a crazy, crazy chapter. So much to go over here. And if you liked the video, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day and I'll see you in the next one.